Welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. I'm your host, Geneva Robbins, and every month on this podcast, we'll talk about Reiki, as well as answering your questions on all things spiritual. We are gratefully located in Calgary in Treaty 7 territory. Thank you all and welcome to the show. Hello, my name is Geneva Robbins and welcome to the Luna Holistic Podcast. Today I'll be answering your questions about Reiki, and we'll start as we always do with your collective breath of gratitude. Just a little mini meditation. We'll jump right into that. If you're driving, keep your eyes open. Everyone else, please close your eyes for a moment just to connect into the earth below you. Taking a deep sigh of relief and letting everything heavy go. Just letting your shoulders settle, letting your jaw unwind. Letting all of your energy gather back inside. Noticing the spot of earth directly below your feet. And connecting in deeply to the energy within the planet that's directly below you. All the way to the core of the earth. And spreading out in every direction. Noticing all of the life that lives in your area. All of the plants and animals, the water, the air. And just send an energy of gratitude to the planet. So grateful to be sitting here. And as that gratitude ripples out from you in all directions, allow that energy to flow back in. So every breath, you're inhaling gratitude and you're exhaling gratitude. Deep reverence for all life, including your own. All is well. You can gently open your eyes. Thank you so very much. I'd love to hear how that sit with you, how you're feeling, and anything at all. This is an episode about questions and curiosity. So if you have questions, I want to answer them. So you can always go to lunaholistic.com/podcast, and we have a cute little widget there that you can record a question you might have. The questions I'm going to answer today are collected from a variety of sources. Some of them are questions that I get asked often, and some of them are questions that come from Google. I just did a little Google search and I found that people have a lot of questions about Reiki, about spirituality, and all of these things. So I've taken a collection of these questions fairly at random. I just let the universe pick, and I'll just start getting into it. So the first one is, how do I connect to the angels, or how do I connect to my spiritual team? This question has been one that's guided a lot of my spiritual exploration because I'm so curious and fascinated about this idea that there are these loving beings looking out for us, interacting with us, and we don't always get to know them, but sometimes we have a feeling or a sense or just this energy of being protected. And because of that, I figured if anyone else could talk to angels, then I could figure it out too. So I feel that I do communicate with beings of all levels. And this really opened up because I wanted to. I was curious and I just expected a reply. And I expected that if anybody else could figure out how to communicate with energies and consciousnesses that are beyond the physical, then I should be able to figure that out. A lot of hubris, probably, but what happened over learning Reiki is that it opens up your spiritual channels. So as I was connecting into this vast universal life force energy, it's not just energy, it's also information. And I found that when I would ask a question, I would tune myself up. I would clear all of my chakras with Reiki. I'd ground and be in this aura bubble. And then I would just ask a question and the reply would come in. I started out by writing as a dialogue, and I talk a lot about that in my book, The Secret Art of Happiness. So there's a whole meditation and method there, and some question prompts where you can connect to your higher being. You can connect to really any loving being you feel is looking out for you. Of course, always go to the best. There's no need to talk to low level energies at all. I always think whoever you think is the most protective, loving being, person, spirit, just go straight to them and then ask your questions about things that are happening in your life. And then just receive the most loving reply you can imagine. And I find it's very nurturing, it's very loving, and it's a relationship that you build with time. At first, it just feels like a warm feeling and an energy. And then as you keep on doing it, you will get more and more information. Sometimes it's just a picture or an image or a word that pops in first. Just go with that, lean into it. Part of the struggle sometimes when you're an intuitive person is that there's a doubt that creeps in. And you are getting messages. I feel like anybody listening is probably getting messages from their spiritual team all of the time. But we doubt that information. We question it, we toss it aside, and then we realize later that it was right and we should have listened to ourselves all along. One of the things that can happen is you think, well, maybe I'm making it all up. And maybe you are. And maybe that's okay. Maybe it's okay to make it up. If it makes you feel good, does it matter? That's one way of just sort of bypassing that inner critic part of us. As long as the information you're getting is good and nurturing and nourishing and provides you comfort and insight, then there's no harm at all. If you're getting messages that are the opposite of that, definitely get that checked out. And also, that could just be your inner critic. And we're not playing with the inner critic, we're playing with the highest, most loving frequency you can connect to. If you don't resonate with the word angels, that's okay. You can pick any other being that works for you and your own spiritual understanding. There's really no limits on that. You can just talk to the highest, most developed aspect of yourself or your enlightened self. Eventually, you will become an enlightened Buddha. If you keep on walking the spiritual path, you'll get there and you can connect to that future self. So that's another way of thinking about it that might provide some comfort there too. And what I find is that the more I do this, the more interesting insights and intuitive information floods in. So I just sort of lean into it and take it as it goes. And usually I find as I start working with it more and more, I get confirmation that it's valuable. It connects me to a vast array of spiritual sources and insights, and I get to reflect and refine where I am in my life, and I find it's really useful. So that's the way I connect to angels. Everybody else has their own way, but there you go. So the next question is, how long does it take for Reiki to work? Well, this one is kind of interesting because sometimes it's like right away. Sometimes it starts working before you even have the session, just as you're looking at it, as you're pondering it, it starts creating a flow and momentum of energy. I find a big part of how effective Reiki is your willingness to change. If you're not willing to change, then Reiki and probably most other things aren't going to help a lot. But if you are deeply willing to change, that seems to mobilize an energy inside of you and a willingness to let go of anything energetically that might be blocking your energy and to bring in and connect with all of the good, which is really, what how Reiki works is we're gently bringing in this positive, loving frequency of everything you want, and in that process it displaces anything you don't want, and it's very gentle, it's very beautiful. Some people in a Reiki session, they feel it right away. They get a reduction in their pain, both emotionally and physically. Sometimes it takes a couple of sessions. Sometimes there's some people, they don't feel a lot in the session, but once they go out into their life, they find that they connect more and they feel more radiant, and things that used to bother them don't bother them anymore. And for me, I find if you're working on something really big, expect it to take a couple of sessions to feel a real change. And definitely a change that is stable and lasts. So sometimes you'll feel a shift and you'll feel really great for a couple of days after a session, and then it starts to fade. And if you come in sort of right before the energy starts declining again, it boosts you up into a place where it really stabilizes that healing and creates sort of a momentum with it. So then you can use your own self care tools like meditation, getting outside, going for walks, connecting to that vast consciousness of the universe, however you maintain your own spiritual flow and physical flow, that can get boosted and supported by Reiki. One of the things that I find is that if people are working on something really acute, and I usually, something that's really, really bothering you and is distressing you a lot, I always tell people like come in every week, maybe even every 3 days, just to get like maybe 3 to 4 sessions back to back, and then you can space them out as you start to feel better. And, it gives you a really good understanding of how Reiki can fit in your overall self care plan. And then, if you're feeling pretty good, just come in every month or every other month just to sort of clear the pipes and keep everything open. That's what I do. So if something big happens in my life, or I just feel like I need a reset or a reboot, just to kind of clear the dust off and get recalibrated to my own energy, I'll get in for a Reiki session with one of our other wonderful Reiki masters here at Luna Holistic. They're all amazing, and I approve of all of them. I've trained everyone and I've worked with everyone, and they are phenomenal, phenomenal people. And I'm really fussy about who I go to. So if I'm too busy, please book in with one of the other Luna Holistic staff. They're amazing. Yeah, and then I just sort of make sure that I get a session every so often just to kind of keep everything flowing, even though I have my own self-care practice. You can't see your own blind spot, and definitely with working on the subconscious mind or limiting beliefs, I find I want to get at my own Reiki for that reason, because then I can just totally relax and I'm not in the conscious mind as I would be if I'm doing my own session. I can relax and I can receive and I can get help from other humans, which is a big deal, getting help from other people. sometimes that's the biggest part of the healing is to say, hey, I need help, and somebody helps you, and that's really nice. So, so yeah. So how long does it take for Reiki to work? It depends, is probably the best succinct answer there. So the next question is, what do you wear to Reiki class or Reiki sessions? And it's really simple. So Reiki's fully clothed, so keep your clothes on, everyone. And at least in our sessions, they are. Other places might be different, but we keep our clothes on. You can be as comfy as possible. In general, you don't want anything that's going to be really restrictive or anything, but show up as you are. If you're comfortable in the clothes you're wearing, then please come in. If you come in from work, just leave all your finery on. That's not a problem. But yeah, just, yoga pants are great. Just something stretchy so that you can feel comfortable is totally fine. You're not moving around or anything. You're just lying on a table. So you can just be cozy. So wear something cozy, comfortable. We've got lots of blankets and pillows and all of that sort of thing. So you don't have to worry about being too cold. We'll make sure you're nice and toasty warm. Yeah, and then you just get to relax for a Reiki session. We chat for a bit beforehand and we chat after as well to set that intention at the beginning and then to share experiences after. And depending on how big of an issue you're working on, that chat at the beginning might be quite extensive. And but the Reiki is beyond time and space, and it all balances everything. You can get a really, really powerful session in a chronologically short period of time. I've had life-changing sessions in only 4 or 5 minutes. So, yeah, so that's what that's all about. So you can just be comfortable when you come to Reiki class or Reiki sessions. There you go. The next question is, what does seeing a purple light in Reiki mean? So, purple is most often connected with the crown chakra, and that's the energy of sort of spiritual connection. And it's also a very highly protective energy. That's the energy that we work with most often in Reiki, is pulling in this very high frequency energy that is protective and guiding and loving. And in Reiki, in level 1, we teach you a process called the violet breath, where you're moving this energy through. And that ends up being a very protective, clearing, sort of anchoring energy for you as a practitioner. It keeps your energy separate from the practitioner, from the person you're working with. So when you're seeing a violet light, that's actually really good. It means that you are in your own Reiki bubble and the Reiki practitioner is in their Reiki bubble. So what you're receiving is coming straight from source. It's not mixed with anyone else's energy. It's just pure, pure energy. That purple color is also whatever you feel it is. So everybody has their own relationship to what different colors mean. And so I always think, be curious. What does it mean for you? And how does it make you feel when you see that color in a Reiki session or in a meditation? Most often, it means that you're connecting to something pure, something loving, and something protective. So that's a really beautiful one. I always really love bringing in a bubble of violet light around me, especially if I'm going out in public or anything like that. And it creates a really nice, safe zone where, especially if you're a really sensitive person, you can just be in that vibration. And that's something we teach you in Reiki. So if you're interested in being in a beautiful bubble of light and protection, you might want to learn Reiki so you're not as overwhelmed by all of the energies out there. So give that a try. The next question is, who invented Reiki? This is an interesting one. So Master Usui, Master Mikao Usui, lived in Japan from 1846, I believe, to 1926. That's just off of the top of my head. So we'll correct it in the show notes if I'm wrong. And yeah, so he was a spiritual person. He had a background in Buddhism and studied a Qigong tantric Buddhist practice called the lightning flash. And he studied and meditated at the base of a waterfall in Mount Kurama and basically got the insight and awareness pretty much basically right from Reiki itself of how to take this universal life force energy and this method that was really, had roots in Buddhism and is designed for enlightenment and transformed it into a practice for healing and one where the practitioner didn't have to be an enlightened being themselves in order to support other people with their awakening healing journey, which is quite remarkable. It's different from other forms of healing. Definitely, you still want to be walking that enlightenment path if you're a spiritual healer of any form, but it is a journey and it does take some time to become an awakened and enlightened master, but you can become a conduit of that pure frequency and resonant energy. And that's what Master Usui really worked on and figured out. And it's a very elegant, beautiful system that anybody can learn. If you're willing to learn, you can learn it. And it is remarkable because the energy itself is pure. You're all humans working through our stuff, but the energy that gets transmitted and you're basically holding space for someone else's remarkable transformation or your own in a self-healing practice. So it's really, really lovely, and I'm incredibly grateful to Master Usui. It started out in Japan and through many, many teachers, through Hawayo Takata, who taught in Hawaii, and that's how it came to the West, and all on down through the lineage. I can trace, and all of the Reiki masters here at Luna Holistic can trace their lineage back to Master Usui. We practice Usui Reiki, and that is the primary method and mode of our practice here. We do combine it with all of the leading edge insights from Brene Brown and trauma therapy and mind body intuition and connection and the work of Louise Hay. We do a lot of that work as well as this Usui Reiki practice. The next question is, can Reiki treat depression? This is a really big question for sure. I want to start out with saying depression is a life-threatening illness, and it is very, very serious. And if you are feeling depressed, you definitely need to connect with your doctor and a psychologist or therapist and just getting that extra support. Big problems need a big team, and you want to spread out the supports that you are using. And yes, Reiki can be a wonderful assistance to lifting depression, especially if it's a energetic block or if it's a problem in your energy. So Reiki is naturally energizing and it can bring in a lot of energy into your system. So we definitely want to be careful in saying that anything will fix or cure anything, any physical or mental ailment. But at the same time, many people have been helped by Reiki. and quite substantially. And sometimes it's even just to give you a boost so you can feel more confident so you can go and get the therapy you need and reach out to a therapist that is going to connect with you and work with you and even as a bridge if you are on the waiting list for therapy to get in there. If you are waiting, there are a lot of really good apps for therapy and support as well. And there's also this amazing number, at least here in my area, called 988, which is the suicide hotline, but you can call them if you're feeling low at all. And there are many, many distress lines as well. So make sure you get the support you need. You can reach out to professionals, but also reach out to your friends and family. I've, lost people to suicide and addictions and things like that in my family. And it's really, really hard to lose somebody who is so bright, beautiful, and shining. And it's really difficult when that person doesn't know how much they're loved. So if you're feeling low, just remember you are loved by so many people. And so just reach out, ask for help. Even just texting people emojis is a really good little safety line. If that's all you can do, just reach out and do that. But yes, Reiki is really nice because we hold space for you, we listen to you, and then we bring in the energy that's the opposite of depression. So whatever you actually want to feel, so illuminated, energized, clear, happy, bright, confident, we just hold that energetic space for you to connect with that beautiful energy and it does seem to lift things, to lighten things. Some people notice a difference right away. Other people need a couple of sessions to get that support. So yeah, it's a great addition to your self-care plan. So yeah. And what does Reiki feel like? This is really cool. So it feels mostly like being in a cozy, warm energy. It's very, very relaxing. It's very calming. I tell people it's a lot like a meditation that you get help with. So sometimes you'll go into that sort of liminal consciousness state where you are in a very deep space, you're very, very calm, but you're very aware of everything that's going on around you at the same time. Some people will feel buzzing or tingling, or you'll feel the heat from your practitioner's hands. So here we do a combination of gentle touch on and off the body. And so sometimes you will feel that sort of radiant heat from our hands. Our hands can really heat up, be quite toasty and warm, which is nice. Yeah, and sometimes you will feel that presence of that hand. So maybe they've touched you on your shoulder and then they've gone to your feet, but you still feel the presence of that hand on the shoulder, even though they're on your feet. And which I kind of love. It's pretty trippy, but and that part of that is, Reiki's beyond time and space. We call in lots of help. And once that energy flow is started, it keeps on flowing even though that practitioner isn't there. So once you finish the session, you usually feel really good afterwards too. So you feel really calm, you feel centered, grounded, clear. That's usually what most people feel like after a Reiki session. So ready to kind of take on the world in a very relaxed way. So, yeah, it's really comforting. It's really cozy. It feels very nurturing and relaxing. Much deeper, I find, than a massage because you are going into a very restful mental state. And in that restful mental state, your whole body starts relaxing. So even though we're not getting in there and working the muscles, everything can relax and release and settle with a Reiki session. And to sum up our little journey through all of our questions, asking a Reiki master anything, the last question for this round is, what is Reiki good for? So, what is Reiki good for? So many things, so many things. I find it's so wonderful for getting that spiritual connection. It's fantastic for physical healing, especially for stress-linked conditions or conditions that get worse with stress. So, because it helps drop you out of that fight or flight state and get into a more restful part of your nervous system, that's where I feel like the healing actually happens. It's like your immune system gets boosted because you're not in that chronic stress state, and it helps basically calm things so then your body can start just healing itself. It's really good for understanding the awareness between events in your life and what's going on in your body. So sometimes you'll have symptoms that happen around stressful times in your life, and the energy, the emotional energy and the physical energy get bound together. With Reiki, it's really good at releasing any of that emotional or spiritual energy that gets stuck in the body, so then the body can just heal. It's really good that way. It's also really good at clearing any trauma or sort of chronic conditions where you're in a very agitated state for a really long period of time. It is beyond time and space, so it helps release a lot of held energy in the body. It helps you ground. It's very, very good for helping people coming out of a dissociated state and reconnecting to their body. So you get to really re-inhabit all parts of your body and get help with that so that you can feel really grounded and connected and feeling like your life force is flowing through you evenly everywhere. It's awesome for that. It's also really amazing for past life healing. We're starting a session soon of past life healing. It's probably already up on the schedule, and where you get guided through basically a meditation that is a past life regression, and then a follow-up Reiki session afterwards to just sort of let everything settle and heal. So if you feel like you've got things that might be karma related, or if you're in a loop or pattern that you can't seem to get out of, a past life session might be really great, but you can get that past life healing in just a regular Reiki session. Along with that is the multi-generational healing as well. So with the multi-generational healing sessions we have, I do it as a longer session. So we'll talk about your family history a bit and then go into where the energy that you want to release is held. And it's basically a meditation where you're handing back any trauma that might be stored in your body to an ancestor. It's the form of a gift. So usually it's what they needed but didn't get. And they give you all of the gifts back. And then we do a Reiki session to integrate it. But you can also work on any generational or intergenerational trauma patterns as well. So maybe you haven't experienced trauma directly, but you feel like you are holding this legacy in your body. That can also get cleared with Reiki because it helps just release any energy that you've acquired from any source back to the light. So we don't fire it back to anybody, we just hand it off to the universe. It will figure out, it'll direct traffic and figure out where everything needs to go. And then you can just be in this peaceful, grounded, clear space. And it can really resolve a lot of legacy patterns where you've just sort of inherited a fast wired nervous system that's always on alert for danger. That's a survival thing, but if it's stuck on too far, it means that you get really anxious in situations that aren't actually a threat. And so Reiki can help clear a lot of that. And I find it just opens up more space. For me, it's a lot like I've done a lot of this work myself, and I feel like when I do generational healing work with Reiki, is it's almost like a background hum of just this energy that's been present your entire life has just gone silent. And there's so much more space and room, and it feels like it clears a lot of things out of the subconscious, any limiting beliefs or inherited thought forms that aren't helpful, that made sense for that particular ancestor based on what they were experiencing, but maybe don't apply in your life anymore, or not in the same way. You can clear a lot of those sort of limiting beliefs out with Reiki. So you can look for that multi-generational healing session. We also have a connecting with your team session, but really you can really work on that spiritual connection and open up the channel, because when you're clear, kind of back to that first question about how do you connect to the angels, when you're clear, you get clear messages. And so Reiki, coming in for a Reiki session or doing this meet your team session will help you connect. So in that meet your team session, you will get a meditation where you get guided to a space where you can meet your spiritual team and basically connect with them. And then we combine it with Reiki to sort of make sure that you're really connecting to really clear, pure, loving sources of energy and light, which is amazing. Highly, highly recommend it. I really love it. And it's also really good for manifesting, getting into a clear vibration where you can start attracting through law of attraction. You can set your intention for whatever it is that you're wanting to manifest. It's great right now as we're heading into a new year to really set your vibrational tone to that sort of clear space of being in harmony with what you want. And we'll hold that vision of you being in that successful state the whole time in the Reiki sessions. We also have a creative manifesting session as a special session. So you will get guided through a manifestation and meditation. And then to finish off the session, we'll do a bit of Reiki as well. So those are some of the bigger sessions too. And also a pattern meditation and pattern clearing session. So basically, if you're in a loop of habits or behaviors that you don't want to be in and you want to reset your schedule and routine to a new rhythm, we can do that with Reiki. So you can just imagine that new energy and just gently displacing the old. So there's a pattern meditation that we combine with Reiki session with this sort of pattern clearing meditation and pattern clearing healing. So those are all really, really cool ways of how Reiki can work for you and all the different levels where it works. So it works on definitely many, many spiritual levels. It helps you feel connected to your own spirituality, whatever that happens to be. It's non-denominational by its nature. So if you have different belief structures than what's common, that's don't worry about it, or no belief structure at all, don't worry. As long as you're willing to change, you still get that benefit. So you don't have to be a spiritual person to get Reiki. You can just come in as long as you're willing to receive your intention and willing to receive that healing, then it seems to work, which is wonderful. So that's it for me today. Thank you so very much for listening, for tuning in. If this series of questions has prompted more questions for you, please drop us a line at lunaholistic.com/podcast or leave a message or reply. I'm really interested in how you relate to all of this information. If you've got questions, I love answering questions. It's like my favorite thing. I am a teacher by nature. This is why I teach Reiki, is I love questions. There are no silly questions. Like anything you're curious about, I am willing to answer. So please send your messages in and we'll catch you next time. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Luna Holistic Podcast. We're so grateful that you are here. If you've got a question, we'd love to hear from you. Go to lunaholistic.com/podcast and we'll answer you in an upcoming episode. Be sure to subscribe to our show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And also please rate, because you never know where your little 5 stars will go to shine light into somebody's heart today. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.